I want to have a little fun in my kitchen. So instead of using a food processor, I'm going to use what I'm affectionately calling now my cookie pounder. Hello, YouTube Nation, and welcome back to my kitchen, where everything in cheese is possible. And today, we're celebrating one of my most favorite things in this entire world, cheesecake. You know, because I love cheese, and I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I also love cake. And I get to put them together today, because today is National Cheesecake Day. So for today, I wanted to change it up a little bit. No normal cheesecake is gonna happen in Nathan's Cheese Kitchen. In my kitchen, I'm gonna explore a little bit more and try to do something a little bit different. So I hope you enjoy today, because I'm going off the rails. So for this cheesecake, you're gonna need a Sous Vide. Now that's a machine, of course, where you're gonna cook in water or hold temperature. If you do not have a Sous Vide, don't fret, don't freak out. It's okay. We've got directions below where you can follow the same recipe and make these beautiful cheesecakes without a Sous Vide. But if you have a Sous Vide, you're in luck. It's awesome. And because we're using a Sous Vide, you'll see that I'm going to be using these little tiny mason jars. Plus, I'm Southern, I'm in Georgia. We drink sweet tea. We drink everything out of mason jars. Why not make cheesecake in mason jars? Plus, we get a good tight seal. Quite honestly, that's the real reason. It gives a good seal, so when you're cooking this in the Sous Vide water, that it won't leak or anything like that. Plus, it holds a seal good enough that it can last about 2 weeks in your fridge before you even open it up. So it's pretty handy. I suggest you get some. Other tools that you're going to need is going to be, of course, a food processor. Now, this is a mega food processor. If you got a little one, no big deal. Just we want to be able to blend everything up. And if you don't have a food processor and all you have is a whisk, start working out now, because you're going to need to whisk it really hard to get it blended. We want to blend everything really well. Okay, now for our ingredients, we're going to get started with from Vermont Creamery. I first want to just give a shout out to them. They make beautiful products. Of course, they're out of Vermont. Most famously known for their fresh goat cheeses, but they also have a beautiful line of fresh, creamy cow's milk cheeses, such as this mascarpone. They have creme fraiche. A mascarpone! I had to do that. That was just a little too fun. So mascarpone is, in a way, Italian cream cheese. It's just cheese. It's made in a similar way, but you're going to see that it doesn't have the gums, the emulsifiers, all that stuff in it. And it's also, I think, just a little bit sweeter. But to add a little bit of tang to this and to add it more cheese and to make it different, I'm going to be using some fresh goat logs. So this is fresh goat cheese. Now you could follow the same recipe and only use the goat cheese or only use the mascarpone, and it'll turn out just fine. But I like to blend them up a little bit to make it more of an interesting cheesecake. Okay? Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and I wanna go ahead and just start putting all the ingredients. That's all you need to do right now is just everything. We've got 8 ounces. So just 1 container here of the mascarpone. Then we just want to use 2 4-ounce goat logs. And you can find these at your grocery store or your cheese shop. Talk to a cheesemonger and they'll actually be able to hook you up. Okay, so we've got our cheeses. Now, 1/2 cup of sugar. Just pour that around. Oh, sugar, sugar. Dun, 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 dun. Then 3 large eggs. See, I went ahead and took the shells off of them to make it easier. We want to just, it's hard to pour, so we'll plop those eggs in. Just like that. Then we also have 1/2 cup of buttermilk. I'm using buttermilk instead of like heavy cream, because this actually makes it a little bit lighter in a way and a little bit more tangy. And plus, again, it's different. It's something nice, something out there. We'll pour that all over it. Then I just need to get my food processor. All right, here we are. And as you may notice, I want to make sure to add some vanilla extract, about a teaspoon, to get in there. And also, don't forget just a little pinch of salt. We want to make sure we get that in there before we go to mixing everything up. Now it's mix time. Okay, so I finally got the lid on. As you can see, not everything in my kitchen is easy, okay? Life is hard, but this cheesecake is gonna be soft and yummy. All right, so what I need to do now, we're gonna hit it on pulse. Pulse this twice, 3 times, 4 times. All righty, so I've pulsed this a few times already. So what I need to do though is I've noticed I've got some sticking around on the outside of right here. I want to make sure to get that off the edges to make sure we've got everything blending in well, and I'll pulse just a few more times. We want this blended very, very well, okay? So let's just make sure. It's like I know what I'm doing now. My goodness. Okay, so a few more pulses. It's like revving up an engine. Vroom, vroom. Yeah. All righty, so we pulse that about 15 times, but we've got a good mix to it. I just want to pop it open to see if that that looks beautiful. That looks perfect. Now, we want to get ready to put them in the jars. All righty. Here I've got my jars ready. So I think for this one, I've got just about 5 jars worth, 5 8-ounce jars. I really don't need any more cheesecake in my house than that, or I'll eat all of it. So this is really just simple. We just want to portion this out evenly amongst all 5. If you're anything like me, you may not have poured them completely evenly to begin with, but I want to make sure that like one person doesn't get more cheesecake than the other. So I'm just going to use a little spoon, and I'm just going to just spread it out a little bit just to make sure that it's nice and even and everybody has just as much, because we also want to save a little bit of room at the top, because we're gonna make, in just a minute, a little graham cracker topping to go on these. And we're gonna do that you pile on top of it fresh, right before you're ready to eat it. So let's make sure we have enough room. Okay, so now let's put our tops on. Make sure they're on nice and tight, again, because we're not going to want any of that liquid when we're cooking in the sous vide going into the cheesecakes. Beautiful. These lids are a little bit easier to work than a food processor lid. Ha! Now, let's get our sous vide. All right. Here's my sous vide, ready to go. We've already got that heated up, and I've got my 5 jars of cheesecake ready to go. And because that water's already hot, I'm gonna use my tongs, and I'm just gonna gently place these guys down into the sous vide to give them time to cook. Now we're gonna let this sit in this preheated 176 degree sous vide. We want to leave it in there for around 90 minutes, okay? Now after that 90 minutes is up, you just come back to your sous vide. Take these guys out. Make sure you leave a little, we want to get as much water off of them as possible. So just grab a little kitchen towel, dry them up, and then pop them in your fridge for at least 4 hours, or as long as you want. They can go overnight, maybe even a little bit better, and you're ready to go. All righty, now that we have our cheesecake in the sous vide, all those cheesecakes are cooking up. It takes about 90 minutes. So in that time, I like to go ahead and make a little graham cracker crust. And since we've got everything in the jars, of course, we didn't put a crust in the bottom. I'm gonna put the crust on the top, but put the crust on when it's nice and fresh right before I eat it. And I think it works out really good because it gives it a nice crunch. It's still kind of crunchy. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna take basically one sleeve of graham crackers, whatever brand you like is there. So you can definitely use a food processor for this if you want to. But I have something else in mind. I want to have a little fun in my kitchen. So instead of using a food processor, I'm going to use what I'm affectionately calling now my cookie pounder. And I'm just going to break this up a little bit. Just bop, 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 bop. You know, it's kind of like I'm tenderizing some graham crackers. I don't want to get these to the point where it's all just powder. I do want some chunks in it. Bow, 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 bow. Okay. I could sit here and pound it all day long, but I don't want to do that right now. It's time to get this into the oven. So after I've got that nice and broken up, look at there. So many good pieces hanging out. Let's go ahead and let's get that sugar. Because you know what? It needs to be a little sweeter. You know, everybody likes it a little sweet. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm using my hands in my kitchen because, you know, that's what I like to do. And it gives you opportunity that if you got too big of chunks in there, you still get to blend it up a little bit more. Now with this butter already nice and melted, let's just pour that around. Look at there. Doop, doop. Get that butter out. And then we just want to mix this up nice and toasted. Basically the same you do if you put a crust on the bottom of a cheesecake, but we're just going to do it on the top. Look at there. Some of it stayed in the bowl. That's a success story. If you don't knock all of it out of the bowl the first time, then you've done something right. Because as you can tell, I've often messed up in my life. With that, okay. So then we're just going to take a little cookie sheet, cookie pan, transfer that over because we're going to pop it in the oven. Spread that out. I was going to say nice and even until I didn't make it really nice and even, but as even as you can. Get that going because we want to make sure all of it gets toasted. You just don't want any big piles. Now we're just going to pop this in the oven, and I can't wait for those little cheesecakes to be ready. Alrighty, so I'm back. I have my cheesecakes, which have been chilling in the fridge for at least 4 hours. We've got my graham cracker topping, which of course was in the oven at 325 for about 15 minutes, mixed with that butter and sugar, so I'm ready for that. And now I've picked out two just random kind of jams that I like. At this point, if you have jam in your fridge or if you want to go out and buy something, but from here, I've just got this Stonewall Kitchen. This is Maine blueberry and cherry jam. I think it's really good. And for something a little bit different, from Blackberry Patch, I've got some strawberry preserves. So this way I can just kind of have something a little different. This is what I love about making these little cheesecakes in these jars is you can do whatever you want to. You can add whatever, you can put blueberry, anything you like. And I'm gonna take one. And you see, which is great that we have enough, we've got a little room in there. And I'm gonna start with little graham crackers. And I'm just gonna sprinkle a little of that on there. Well, maybe not so heavy. Save some room for jam, Nathan. Come on. But that's going to give us a nice little texture crunch. Okay. Then, let's try some of this Maine blueberry and cherry. I think this is going to be good. Oh. You know, I can't cook without making a mess. So sue me. You know, it's just going to happen. You saw me try to work the lid to that food processor earlier. So now, that's basic. I just, add a little topping to it, a little jam, and now I think it's ready to eat. What do you guys think? Okay, Oh, it's gonna be a little bit messy. That is amazing. And what I love about it is that it is, even though it is rich, but it's not too sugary. You know, because we added, you know, we had that mascarpone, we had the goat cheese, and we added that buttermilk. Holy Toledo. This is absolutely amazing. A perfect snack, a perfect cheesecake for Cheesecake Day. Happy Cheesecake Day to each and every one of you out there. I hope you have a good one. I could sit here and pound it all day long.